everybody, welcome back to the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. Thrilled that you are here, hopefully twice a week, every week, to get your little taste of, business development, marketing, best practices from me and the fabulous guests that I continue to bring on week after week. This show's all about helping you to be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. So I've got Eduardo waiting in the wings. How you doing, man?
Hi, Steve. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to
Yeah.
be here.
Yeah. How are things down in Guatemala?
Sunny and great.
Sunny and great, not too warm.
Yeah. No, no, no.
Okay.
This is called the land of the eternal spring. So we always have
Oh,
a very, very nice weather.
oh man, that sounds nice. Chicago's has known for the same thing. 12 months a year, we have great weather in Chicago. Everyone knows that. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, it's awful for half. Anyway, it's actually not too bad. It's actually not too bad. Well, I'm so happy that you're with us. Everybody's going to enjoy this conversation and what we're going to get into today, starting with our quote of the show. And this is a good one. I like this. Here it is. If you have chosen, no, let me start over. Blah. All right, here we go. You have chosen the wrong path if it's not fun, and you are probably not taking enough risk if it's not rocky and hard sometimes. And that was Mark Russell Benikoff, of the co-founder of Salesforce.
Yeah.
First of all, welcome to the show. And second of all, tell us about that quote.
Well, you see, I always say that there's no growth within the comfort zone. And there's a point in which you get very good at what you do, and it doesn't feel challenging anymore. Um, that's when you know you have to start trying something else, start
Yeah.
pushing it. This- Because if you stay there, well, first you'll get bored, and then you won't feel like you're growing.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm an advocate of trying to always break your comfort zone. That's why I love that quote so
Yeah.
much.
Well, and the other piece of it is the fun piece. Like, I'm having fun talking with you. I'm having fun solving problems with clients. I was just on a panel today with a bunch of experts in marketing and social media. And it's just like I get up and I'm like, I'm shot out of a cannon and happy and excited to like work. And I don't know that all lawyers are feeling that feeling, because they're maybe doing work that isn't interesting, or maybe they're not getting out and meeting people and networking. I mean, what are some of the reasons that lawyers are kind of miserable being a lawyer?
Oh, so we're gonna jump right in, right?
Well, I don't know. I guess I just kind of went
Well,
there.
all right. So I don't think that anybody's miserable just for being a lawyer. Like in any other profession, it has its ups and downs and its problems. Where I feel that I've seen, where I've seen that the most lawyers are discontent with their careers is when they don't feel in control of them.
Mm,
They reach a
okay.
point in which they're very good at what they do. Um, they do great work for clients, but they still feel like they're somebody else's employee,
Yeah.
and they don't want to be there, especially
Yeah.
between 38 and 48 years old. And normally that's because well, business development is such an important issue,
Yeah.
because if they can't bring themselves to build their own networks, to build their own referral sources, to build their own book of business, that's when that frustration starts coming in, and it stops
Yeah.
being fun.
I mean,
That
I
that's
would
when I see
say,
it.
yeah, no, I mean, you're spot on. And I would say that if I had to rank the number one answer that I ask every lawyer, what's their motivation for hiring me? Or what's the motivation for making a change in your status quo? And it's almost always because I don't have control. I want the autonomy. I want to be in a position of power where I can be portable if I want to, if I have to move or something bad happens, I'm in control. So you are really spot on with that reasoning. I think there's a lot of lawyers also who maybe they're in the wrong practice area. Maybe they got pulled into litigation, but they don't like to argue. Maybe they're in an area that just isn't interesting to them anymore. And there's lots of different ways to kind of skin the cat to go in different directions. But the one that takes the most effort and the most commitment is probably the control piece with the business development, which we're talking about on the show all the time. And we are going to get back to in a moment after we learn a little bit about you, Eduardo. Do you want to give a little bit of your background and how you came to be in the legal space?
Sure. Well, I'm a lawyer by
Well, that solves that.
um, I went to college and I went to law school,
But why?
and
Why did you decide that?
it's a very funny story. I was in high school, and my dad offered me a trip to Cancun if I was part of the honor roll in my senior year.
Okay.
So I was very good at math, but math only ran for 6 months, and the other 6 months I didn't have math classes. And if you added my grade from the math class to the entire year, I would be on honor roll. But they wouldn't give me honor roll, so I go to the student manual to the student law, and and I found that they had to count math for the entire year, so I could go to Cancun.
Oh my God.
So I presented my case to the principal, and I went to Cancun, and I decided that I wanted to be a lawyer right there. I
You're not joking. That is a funny story. Wow, I've never heard anything like that before.
but
But
but I was well, here's the thing, and here's how I end up in what I do. I was in between studying and going to business school and being a lawyer. So but I always had that entrepreneurial business side of me. I used to sell poinsettias when I was a kid. I used to sell jewelry, face creams, whatever you gave me, I sold,
yeah,
right? Um, so I always felt like I was a litigator, but I always felt like there was something missing while I was practicing. And I ran into a website that in Spanish is abogadosynotarios.com, which is lawyers and notarypublics.com. And it was available. It was for sale. So I bought it. I figured I'll do something with this. So at first I figured I'll do a directory of law firms, but I started investigating. I went down the rabbit hole, and I found that the way that directories were making money back then is by offering other services. So I said I'm gonna do websites for lawyers. I'm gonna do marketing for lawyers, and I ended up studying with some consultants in Spain for strategy and management of law firms. And that's where I learned that you could be a consultant for law firms,
mm,
which there are not very much in Latin America. Um, so when I come back to America, I I didn't want to be a lawyer anymore. I want to be a consultant, and that's how it all started.
So the legal
And I end up
background,
in
yeah,
sorry,
the legal background leading into the entrepreneurial business stuff, and then working with lawyers all comes into play.
yep, that's how I end up in consulting, and I shift to business development. Well, not really shift because I do both things. I do strategy for law firms, and I also do business development training. Um, but when I noticed like 7 or 8 years ago that whenever a law firm would hire me, they would um, they would hire me to do strategy or compensation or anything. But what they really wanted was more clients and more matters
Mm,
at the end of the day.
right.
So being as I'm a very straightforward person. So being as straightforward as I am, I figured, no, you know what you want. You want business development. So I
Yeah.
want to train myself and teaching you that. And that's how I ended up doing business development.
Yeah. And I'd be crazy not to ask you because, it's not every day that I'm interviewing someone from Latin America with in business development for lawyers. Culturally, you've got the US and Canada and Spain and I'm going to bring up Saudi Arabia in a little bit because I've got a couple Saudi clients, but
Mhm.
culturally, how is business development and your experience different just from, let's just say, Latin America with the US? Like what's going on that's different about how lawyers build business there versus here?
All right. So what I've noticed from engaging other lawyers in the States and looking at the different markets, I would say that the main difference between Latin America and the States is business culture.
Mm,
The business culture in the States is generally more direct and more time efficient, so to speak. I mean, they're thinking about productivity, deadlines, measurable results, and don't get me wrong. I mean, relationships in the States are important, but often secondary to performance metrics, from my experience.
okay.
Whereas in Latin America, the business culture tends to be more flexible, more relational. So there's a greater emphasis to do business development in social interactions, um, hospitality, building rapport over time. So I would say that would be the main difference
Okay. Okay.
doing business development in the States and Latin America. But if you want to go, if I can, if you allow me to get more into specifics, I would say that the US market is more mature in many aspects. Being more mature, there's a lot of processes that are being applied in companies in the States and in Canada that are directly designed to eliminate subjectivity from the processes and focus on objective metrics. So while in the States, personal relationships might get you into the roster, like to present an offer, in Latin America, they will get you into the roster and give you a considerable advantage if the people that are in charge of the hiring decision feel comfortable with you in a personal level.
Right. So
Um,
like let's say for example that you get in the US you get a seat at the table to present your firm, but if it's not a good fit, like for example academically, meaning that your depth of your bench or your team isn't there, or you don't have enough diversity, or the numbers don't align, then you may be rejected for those reasons, where in Latin America it's a little more free flowing.
yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly
Okay.
like that. I mean, um, and there's another thing. I would say that in the States right now, like your digital persona, everything you do on digital, the way you present yourself, how you specialize, everything will go a long way into getting the opportunities and getting approached by clients. The market is much more digital. So
Hmm.
in the States, you might get approached because they found you online and they might just trust you for your credentials and invite you into that process. Whereas in Latin America, um, the market is not ready to open up like that to just a digital reference. They would want someone to refer you to get a direct referral or an indirect referral from this lawyer, and you're more willing to give the opportunity, like, to your, here we go, your bed table lawyer, like the one you always work with, to figure out a new different practice area, rather than just go with someone that's more specialized, um, that you found online. I don't know if I explained myself very
No,
well.
yeah, you did. You did. The here's an interesting question, follow up on this culturally. When someone in Latin America, so let's say that you get a seat at the table in Latin America and they don't want to do business with the lawyer, they're going to go a different direction for a variety of reasons. How do they say no? Do they just say no, we're not going with you? Do they ghost them? Do they, I mean, in the US, we say, I'll think about it, which we know is the kiss of death. Like, I'll think about it means no, but that's not what we say in America. We want to avoid, confrontation, and we want to avoid, disappointing somebody. So we just say, we'll think about it, and then we ghost them. How is it done? Is that similar in Latin America?
I would say that changes to a degree
Okay.
depending on which country of Latin America we're talking about.
Okay.
If we're talking about Mexico, um, Colombia, Chile, probably the more, well, I don't want to talk about Brazil. I don't know that market very well, but
Mhm.
I would think Brazil also. The more mature markets would be more direct.
Okay.
They would they would probably go and just tell you, look, we're not this time. Let's see if in the future.
Yeah.
But
Got
in
it. Got it.
smaller markets, the smaller markets like in Guatemala, Costa Rica, perhaps Peru, Dominican Republic, you are going to probably run into this lawyer at a wedding, at a at a business function, somewhere in the high school of your kids. So you're gonna try and do that very, very, very softly, very easily, and you might not give a straight no answer and ever.
Yeah. Okay. And here, I have a friend who does some coaching in Japan, and in Japan they don't say I'll think about it. They say that sounds difficult. So when you say, hey, let's work together and let's do this, and it will send you a proposal. Yeah, what do you think? So yeah, that sounds difficult. And when you hear that, that's them saying no, but in a very nice way because they're very polite. So
Yeah,
we've all come,
you won't
yeah.
get straight up no's in Latin America like that.
Okay, okay, yeah.
You're most likely to get ghosted
Yeah, yeah,
than to
yeah.
receive a direct no.
Yeah. I mean, I try to train attorneys to go after the no, at least to understand why it's a no and try to get someone to be honest. And so, like, for example, at the beginning of a meeting, I might teach a lawyer to say, look, at the end of our meeting today, Eduardo, if we feel like it's a good fit, we want to proceed forward and take next steps. Let's coordinate that before we get off the call. On the other hand, if you or I don't feel that it's a good fit, what I would really appreciate is if we could just be honest with each other, say why it's not a good fit, and go our separate ways. We could stay friends. But are you open to that type of an honest type of conversation? And the
No.
person will almost always say no. In the US, the person will almost always say yes, which doesn't mean that that will actually happen at the end, but at least it allows us to bring it back and say, hey, we had agreed that we were going to be honest with each other and kind of just call a spade a spade. Is there a reason, can you just share with me what's going on? Oh, I don't have the money, or I don't have this, or I don't have that, or there's another decision maker or whatever. But at least what we're trying to do is get to the honest truth and getting some upfront commitment to that point, at least in the States. I'm saying that works really, really well. So much better than just dealing with the think about it's and the maybes, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I can't think on the top of my head right now of 5 lawyers I could convince to start a conversation like that in Latin America.
It's
It's a
there's
it's way too
culturally, right? It's
straightforward.
yes, right. Well, the goal of a lot of what I'm trying to teach are sales free methodologies where it's mostly it's generally permission based. So I'm giving you like a piece of a system that I'm teaching where
Mhm.
it's all about me asking you, is that okay? Are you all right? Can we do this? Can we go this way? Are you open to that? So that the person will agree because it makes sense and get buy-in. But again, that's got to be done in such a tender, gentle way that it's not going to come across either as a process or as anything other than, conversational.
Well, you see, now we reached a culture, an important cultural difference right now. You see how in the States you're more straightforward. We're talking business, we're talking business. If you get a meeting like that in Latin America with someone you want as a client, how I would approach it
Yeah, this
first
is
is
great.
very soft, empathic questions.
Mm-hmm.
How's your family? What do you like to do? Like
Yes.
go around the bush a lot before even talking business to try and actually build a relationship.
Right, right, right. And I apologize. So I was giving a piece of a puzzle
I know, I
that's
know,
20
I know.
pieces long, but you spend time building rapport, building relationship, asking about their kids. How was your trip to
Mm,
Spain? You go through
mm.
all of that. And then I would transition to, Eduardo, to make if you're open to this, in order to make the best use of our time, I thought it would really make sense to sort of set up a game plan for us. Is that okay? You would say yes
Yeah.
because you want to make the best use of your time. And then I would follow a series of other points to kind of get the game plan set. And what I shared was a piece of that. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. So
I
again,
see it. I
yeah,
love it.
okay.
No, I love it. I love it. How you do. The only thing I would do different in Latin America is that I would probably split that conversation to a second or a third interaction.
Okay.
We are
Interesting.
not as it's not that we disrespect, but we are not as aware of I don't want to take much of your time, etc. We're not like
Okay.
that
Right. Right.
concerned
It's too,
about that.
maybe too structured. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would move it to a second or a third meeting
Okay.
to
Okay.
to start establish like talk business
Wow. That's
per se.
great. So yeah, you got to spend maybe a couple meetings building relationship, getting to know each other before you can get down to a business conversation is what it sounds like in some instances.
That's at that depth, that's serious. Yeah,
Okay.
we
Okay.
would do it in 2 or 3 interactions.
Wow, that's really good to know. Really good to know. But let's talk about things that may be universally true. And this is going back to what we shared at the very beginning about the importance of business development. Maybe there's no difference between the States and Latin America in this, but are attorneys in Latin America um, compensated properly? And do they make business development a big part of their growth plan for their future? Or is that something like in the States, 80% of attorneys avoid it like the plague?
All right, so um, we have to talk about different markets within Latin America right now.
Okay,
I would
okay.
say
And I apologize, I'm kind
Mexico.
of globbing it all together. I
No, it's
probably shouldn't
okay.
do
It's
that.
okay. It's basically two markets,
Okay,
like the bigger countries and the smaller countries.
okay,
We can call it like that.
all right.
Um, I would say that it works similar to the States in countries that have a more mature legal market, such as Mexico, Colombia, and Chile. But for the rest of the markets, um, you do grow depending on your book of business, but the systems are not there yet in most of the firms to keep you there
Mm.
when you actually have developed that book of business.
Maybe like they
So
haven't set up a compensation plan that like there's a lack of transparency. No one really knows what it is. And I mean, that's still done here in the States a little bit, but it's
yeah,
getting less,
yeah.
less,
Sort mhm.
prevalent.
No, sort of like that. So
Okay.
what ends up happening is that we have a lot of fragmentation in those markets, because when a lawyer actually starts building their own book of business, they have certain aspirations, let's call it like that, that probably they got from movies or from watching Suits, but the structures in the law firms are not there yet. So they end up saying, you know what, I'm just gonna go across the street and open up my own law firm.
Yeah.
That's
Interesting.
that
So
but
instead, yeah, so
compensation.
that's how they get that's how they get away from a bad environment or bad culture in a firm is they're just going to go up and start their own.
Yeah, yeah, more likely what happens.
Okay.
In the more developed markets, they might transition to another law firm as big as theirs,
Okay.
but they are not. It's not that hard for them to open up shop.
Okay.
It's not like if
But
you're getting out of Queen Emanuel or Greenberg Traurig or Hogan Lovells that you need to go to a structure like that to even be able to service your book of business. Here, you could start a team and service your book of business with a much smaller team. But I would say that in Latin America, we still have a long way to go, not in establishing the compensation plans based on origination, but actually being able to track them and live up to them. I don't
yeah,
know how to say this.
maybe they don't have the right software, the right technology.
Comply with them. I think it. I wouldn't say it's technology.
Okay.
It's a mindset problem. In a lot of the law firms, uh, uh, there's a lot of very good law firms that have been doing it great, but there are some that grew from one founding partner that was very good at what he did, and now that he has to share with everyone, it's very difficult for him to share. Or his son is a lawyer, his grandson is a lawyer, and they start seeing the law firm like if it was a factory or
Mm.
something that they could inherit. So it's very difficult for the other lawyers that are building books of business to actually bring them to the firm and be properly not only compensated but properly recognized within the table of owners.
Yeah. Well, it
So
sounds like,
that's
yeah, it does
something we're struggling with.
yeah, but it sounds like like it is a little bit behind the States. And there was a time where, it was the egomaniac, single rainmaking managing partner storming around the halls, barking orders, and everyone just did the bidding of that managing partner, usually a white guy. And there aren't a lot of people that want to work or at least stay at a firm like that. They're going to realize it's, the unemployment here in the States for lawyers is like 0.04%. Like it's nothing. There's no unemployed attorneys that want to work. And now it's a matter of can attorneys find a better culture, a better comp plan, a better path, and it's available to them if they want. Now, is it better if they have a book of business to go get the money and go get the better culture and go name their deal? Yeah, 100%. But it's interesting that that lawyers in both North and South all are starting to recognize the importance of that book of business.
Well, and the dynamics are the same, Steve. If you have clients, if you have the ability to bring in clients, you are going to be better compensated. You are going to have more power at the table.
Yeah.
So the dynamics of the legal market, I would say, are the same.
Okay.
It's just the options of what do you do when you're not comfortable where you are because the compensation is not right. Here, it's much easier to go across the street and open up shop, and it's a way that a lot of partners end up doing it.
And one of the problems with the states and people doing that is the fear of being an entrepreneur, the fear of being on your own. I think there's a certain quality that lawyers have to have the guts to go and do that. And it sounds like in Latin America, in many countries, it's more maybe more innate that that's how things are done and that's how you get ahead, and they just deal with the outcome of that decision.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's more innate, but if you have one good client, sometimes that one good client is gonna tell you, look, you know what, I'm gonna help you. Just go put on your own law firm. I'm gonna help you out,
Okay.
and that's enough to start.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's enough to
Okay.
start.
But
Or
but
or
but that's
sometimes
still but that's still not enough for many people to say they're going to open up shop. And there's a lot of anxiety that many lawyers have that work at big firms or even work in the mid market, that going out on their own. I mean, that there's the management, there's the software, and there's the IT, there's the insurance, there's the overhead, I mean, there's just so many moving parts. It's easier now than it's ever been. But I'm just putting out from my perspective on attorneys in the States. Many of them are much happier working and doing their job than opening up their own deal.
um perhaps, but you know what? It's also easier here. You don't
Okay.
have those insurance problems.
Okay.
You don't have the huge amount of bureaucratic procedures that you have to
Okay.
go
Okay.
through in the States. So it's much easier to set up
Yeah.
shop.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, very interesting. Let's transition. I know we
mhm.
are collaborating, you and I and your team, on a Young Partners Accelerator that's coming to Chicago in what is it, September?
Yes,
Do
September.
you want to just share a little
At
bit
the end of
about that?
September.
Yeah, do you want to just share a little bit about that?
All right. So I have a very close relationship with Sharon Abrahams, which is the co-founder of Young Partners Accelerator and the executive director of the program. And for many years, we've been friends for many years, and we've discussed this because we have this a similar program for lawyers from Latin America to train them into how to transition into partnerships. But talking to Sharon, she would say, you know what? There's a lot of law firms in the United States that don't train their partners when they promote them. We weren't aware of that. We
Yeah.
thought that every law firm in the United States
You
was
should have
training their
called me.
partners.
I could have told you.
We weren't aware of that. And that's how the whole idea of the Young Partners Accelerator came to be. We want our mission is to help lawyers be happy when they're named partners,
Yeah.
have the right tools so that that next part of their careers, it's actually fulfilling for them. It's a very daunting when you're named partner and you have no idea what your different roles are going to be because they change substantially, or they should change substantially if you want to do it right.
Hmm.
Then you have business development
Expectations, right?
requirements or
Yeah, requirements,
obligation
expectations
expectations,
about, yeah, they
and you
want you
have
to bring in the
no
business.
idea how to do it.
Right.
That's why I'm so happy that you are going to be with us to train all of them. Um, there's a lot of things, and there's one that's the most important, and Sharon talks a lot about this, is that you transition into partner, but you don't develop an ownership mentality. And if you never develop an ownership mentality, you're never going to feel as a partner, and then you're never going to perform up to the standards of being partner. But no one ever tells you that.
Yeah.
How to develop that ownership mentality, how to engage your mentors. This guy or this girl has been your boss for 20 years, and suddenly you're their partner. How do you engage with them? Or the funniest one that I heard in one of her programs at the Young Partners Accelerator last year, one of the lawyers comes and says, "Look, I was senior partner last year, and every Thursday we would go have beers with all the senior partners. Now I'm a partner. Can I still go?"
Yeah.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, if you're comfortable with it,
Yeah.
but those questions arise. So a moment that Hollywood has told us that is like the epitome of being a lawyer becomes a nightmare
Yeah.
if you're not trained for it.
Right. Right.
That's what
Well,
Young Partners Accelerator does.
and
Prepares
we're
you for the rest of your career as a partner.
yeah. I mean, it's absolutely critical. And that's why we're collaborating. And we're going to put all the details for that event in the show notes to make sure everybody has them. Let's wrap up with our game-changing book, though, Eduardo. New strategic selling. Now, I know the book Strategic Selling. This is, I'm sure, an add-on to that or the next version.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
I don't remember reading the first one,
It's been
but
around.
I
I
did
think it's
read.
been around over 20 years or something like that.
Wow,
Strategic
yeah,
selling. Yeah.
yeah, and it totally changed the way it changed my life. It changed my career, and it changed the way I teach business development. That book, especially in one single part. I mean, what does the book explain? The book explains how to navigate complex selling within organizations, how to handle the different decision makers that are involved in the whole process, like the economic buyer, the technical buyer, the user buyer. They all have their own concerns, and you have to address them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one person that book talks about that I would like everyone that's listening to us to take that away with them from this conversation. And it's the coach buyer. The coach buyer is someone within the organization that wants to see you succeed, that wants for you to get hired. If you can identify that one person, which is probably not the one that makes the decision to hire you, but see them as that coach, as that guide, and ask them the right questions. All right, who makes the decision? What does the company value the most? Why are they unhappy with their current lawyers? Who's the compliance officer? When I learned this concept, I started selling a lot more, and I started teaching it. And I'm just, I don't want to extend that long. I know we have a limited time, but I just want to give you one example that this one time that I used it. I was trying to sell a business development program to a very large law firm in Colombia, and the lady in charge of trainings wanted to hire my program. So I used her as a coach, and I started asking the right questions. She told me that basically the decision would be made by the marketing person. So I made an effort to become friends with that person.
Mm-hmm.
But and here's the cool part. She told me that the technical buyer, part of the technical buyer, which are the buyers that see that everything is according to company policies, is compliance. And the wife of the managing partner was in charge of compliance. So I made it the conscious decision to reach out to her and tell her, look, I want to see what are your compliance requirements. I want to understand them
Mm.
and make sure that we can comply with all of them to engage with your law firm. And she was so impressed that I actually called her to
Yeah.
ask her these questions, that she mentioned it to the managing partner, and therefore I got
Everything
hired and I
and
worked with them for several years.
all the dominoes fall.
But I would have never known that information
Yeah.
if I wouldn't have extracted it from that one person, because I saw her as the coach.
Yeah.
And what I always tell the lawyers that work with me in my programs is, look at everybody you know, and don't discard those that work in sales at the company or that work on human resources and other departments. Just look at them as your coach, as the one that can guide you to the correct people you need to reach,
Yeah.
and that can tell you what those people value.
It's a wonderful experience and a takeaway for everybody listening. Multiple decision makers and people that influence decisions at organizations. So, really great stuff, Eduardo. If people want to get in touch with you, they want to learn more about the the Young Partners Accelerator, the retreat in Chicago. What's the best way for them to reach out, or website or thing to
Go,
share?
go to the website. It's ypaccelerator.com,
Okay.
and we can talk through there. Um, the program is a great program for anyone that feels that they need to know a little bit more about their partnership role. who want to feel that they were trained for that next part of their careers that has to be the most fulfilling one. So
Yep.
you need to get training for that.
Awesome. Right on. Yeah, and I'll be there with bells on, helping to teach sales free selling and make sure everybody's walking away with lots and lots of new habits and good takeaways there. Want to take a moment to just thank our wonderful sponsors, Lawmatics, PimCon coming up in September, and Get Staffed Up, all great friends of the show. And Eduardo, thanks, man. It's nice that we can get you on the show and talk a little bit about some of the cultural differences and the importance of BD and in different parts of the country. So thanks so much. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person when you come into town.
Well, thank you, Steve, for having me. And thanks a lot for getting involved in the Young Partners Accelerator. We are very excited to have you.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a great collaboration. I just know that. And, that's going to help people to be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. Take care, everybody. Be safe, be well. We'll talk again soon.